Okay. So welcome to the new lecture of embedded system. In today's lecture, we are going to study the architecture of embedded system and the comparison between the architecture of embedded system. So first of all, embedded system means what? Embedded system is a system which has inbuilt microprocessor or controller, memory, input output ports, or the timers. Okay. So embedded processor has inbuilt program. That program is executed one by one instruction, and according to that instruction, the output is generated. So input devices give input. That input may be in the form of analog signal, that may be in form of a switches, buttons, or that may be in form of digital signal. Okay. So this input is given to the controller. Controller takes action, and that action is reflected in the form of output devices. Whatever program is there, that program is recorded or stored in the memory. Memory has two types of memory. One is called data memory, and second is called like a program memory. Program memory contains the program which is executed by the processor, and data memory has the resources which acts as a source to the program. Means on the data, based on data memory, the program takes action and output is generated. Then the system timer. So like what human does, human works according to the time. That means whatever time, that 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So similarly, according to time, we work similarly. Controller has to work in real time, because there are some application, there are some certain tasks are there that task has to be worked within specified time. So for that purpose, the system timers are required. Okay. So system timers are nothing but the clock of your processor. So that processor works according to the timer. So depending upon the type of processor you're using, there are number of timers are inbuilt to the processor, or you can use external timer as a clock also for the processor. Then the serial communication and parallel communication ports are there. Serial communication ports, obviously the data exchange takes place between the peripheral devices of the embedded system with microprocessor in serial mode. You know that what is serial communication. Again, in serial communication, there are two types of communication. That is your asynchronous type of communication and synchronous type of communication. You already know it. Asynchronous means the data transfer takes place with the start and stop bit, but not according to the clock. Then serial communication synchronous means the communication takes place according to the clock. As the clock ticks, the communication starts, and certain bits are transmitted according to the clock. And then parallel communication means all the bits are transmitted at once. Suppose the 8-bit bus is there, means 8 bits are transmitted at one time. If 16-bit bus is there, all 16 bits are transmitted one time. So that is your serial communication and parallel communication port. Then the interrupt controller. Interrupt controller means what? Suppose the embedded system is running something, some task is running by the embedded system, but if while running one certain task, one interrupt is occurred. Now, interrupt means what? Any interference to the executing task, that is called as an interrupt. Means suppose I am conducting the lecture. During conduction of lecture, if suppose someone tries to enter into the class, he wants my permission, then that is an interrupt. Again, suppose I am speaking, and suppose someone is sneezing, coughing, so that is an interrupt. Interrupt means any noise or interference to the ongoing task is nothing but the interrupt. I hope it is understood. So interrupt controller, what it does, it manages the interrupt. Suppose one controller is there. To that controller, number of devices are there. Suppose your mobile is there. Mobile processor is working. ARM processor is there. To your mobile, suppose you are playing one game. Okay. During playing of that game, your internet connectivity is on. So your all the messengers like WhatsApp is there, Facebook is there, all messengers are also having the internet connectivity. So some message is there, that message is displayed on your mobile screen. So that is an interrupt to your playing game. Okay. Suppose someone is calling you, someone has text you message, then that is also an interrupt. So according to the task, whatever interrupts are coming, the priority of interrupt is achieved. The priority of interrupt is achieved. So here, most important thing is that suppose a task is executed and the task which is having more priority, task is having more priority, then that task, uh, then that task is executed first, okay, and then the interrupt is executed. Okay, like suppose I'm conducting the lecture, I'm in the class. If some person wants my time for a few seconds, then depending upon the person, I will stop my lecture or rather I will continue my lecture. Suppose one student wants my permission, then what will happen? That I will continue my sentence, I will complete my sentence, then I will give my time to that student. Okay, then I will give time to my student. If suppose my senior faculty member is there at the door and he wants my time, then obviously I will stop my sentence at that particular time. Then I'll go to the senior faculty member, that may be HOD, that may be principal, or that may be the management person. Then I will give time to him, and then I'll complete the remaining sentence. Then I'll complete the remaining sentence of your uh, lecture. So in this way, this in this way, the interrupt controller works. Then the input output driver circuits are there. Like suppose one switch is there. So that switch is not directly connected to their processor. There are certain circuits are there. Through that circuit, that switch is connected. Correct. Suppose one sensor is there, that is also input device. So that sensor requires analog to digital conversion. Correct. If suppose one DC input is there, but that DC must be converted to another DC voltage. Correct. Suppose digital output is there, that is binary, but that binary form need to be converted into certain uh, series of bit stream. So that is a input driver circuit. Means it is converting data in the usable form. If suppose the output devices are there, means you have to drive suppose one servo motor, you cannot give directly supply to your servo motor, you have to add extra circuitry so that the motor will work. Suppose stepper motor is there, you have to continuously generate the supply, so you will use ULN 2803 IC that continuously drives the supply. Again, suppose DC motor is there, then obviously you have to generate continuous DC current or AC current. So for that purpose, you will require L293D IC. So like that. So this is nothing but your what you say, the input output circuit. Again, the power supply reset buttons are there. We know that for microcontroller operation or for memory operation, for serial communication port operation, you require the power supply. So that power supply is generated by using the dedicated power supply circuit. If you want 5 volt plus minus, if you want 12 volt plus minus, then what you will require some specialized power supply circuit. Then the reset button is there. Suppose in certain task your microcontroller has lost its time, then the system may hang up for some time, the system may not function as per your requirement, then the reset button is provided. If you press that reset button, obviously your system restarts from the first point, from the first instruction of its program memory. So that reset button is provided. And some application specific circuitries are there. Means suppose your embedded system is there. In that embedded system, you required some particular output to be executed. Then that specific circuits are there. That specific circuits cannot be modified for another application. So that circuits are known as the application specific circuits. So that is nothing but your embedded system. So your embedded system consists of embedded processor, which is a brain, then memory. It has two parts: program memory, data memory. Then your input output devices and input output device driver circuits are there. And again, the serial and parallel ports are there for the communication purpose. If you want to access memory, then that memory is accessed using parallel ports. If you have to access the peripheral devices, then most of the peripheral devices are accessed using serial communication ports. Again, the power supply unit, the reset circuitries are there, correct? Then interrupt controller is there. That interrupt controller handles the interrupt. Whatever interrupts are coming, according to the priority. Priority means what? Which interrupt you will access first. If suppose 5 interrupts are there at the same time, then what? These 5 interrupts will be executed according to the priority. The interrupt which is having highest priority means it need to be accessed immediately, correct? That is called as the interrupt priority. Means suppose one plant is there. In that plant, you can say that suppose atomic research center is there. The research is going on. So if suppose the temperature of the atomic plant is increased up to certain level, say suppose 50 degrees Celsius. If the temperature goes beyond 50 degrees Celsius, the blast may take place. So if the temperature, if all the processes are currently going on, and if temperature reaches to 50 degrees Celsius, the alarm will be given. If that alarm is given, then all the action which are that embedded processor is performing, it will halt all the operation, and it will generate alarm signal, and the coolant will be given to the plant so that the temperature will decrease. So this is the top priority work. Whatever ongoing processes are there, you have to stop that process and you have to give coolant immediately to the plant so that the temperature of that atomic plant decreases, and the catastrophe that is going to be happen, that will not take place. So that is interrupt priority. Means whatever interrupt is occurred, you have to manage that also. So for that purpose, special interrupt controllers are also there. If the embedded system is smaller, then interrupt controller is not there. If the embedded system is larger, then interrupt controller is there. Okay. So what are the major application of embedded system is there? So embedded system has major applications like telecommunication system. So your mobile phone, telephone, tablets are there. These are your telephone application. Then the computer networking is one of the application of embedded system. Whatever router, as you can see in the background of my screen, you can see that black box, that is a router. So that router performs that routing application. Means suppose 20 PCs are connected to that router, then which PC is demanding which website. So that data is completely routed to that specific PC. So that PC, that router or that switch acts as a network embedded system or the computer networking embedded system. Then the consumer electronics are there. All the consumer electronics which are automatic in their work, that are called as a consumer electronic application. Means your washing machine is there, your fridge is there, your microwave oven is there, then your CD player, DVD player, GPS system is there, then your laptops are there, computer tablets are there, whatever consumer things are there which works automatically, that are nothing but your embedded system. Then your household applications are there, your biomedical systems are there, like your whatever ECG you take, whatever X-rays you capture, whatever sonographies you capture. Then the patient monitoring systems are there. Nowadays, the oximeters are there. You can see that oximeter calculates the oxygen level. So that is your embedded system. The temperature, like today we are having the contactless temperature measurement instrument. So that are your embedded system. Then the motor control systems are there, like in farmhouse you are having uh, embedded system, like on a missed call or on a message, the motor must start, must stop. So that is your embedded system. Then CNC machines are there, correct? So these are the embedded systems. So home automation systems are there, like your what we say, the light operation, the TV control systems are there. So these are home automation systems, correct? So these are the applications of the embedded system. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of embedded system? If you talk about the advantages of embedded system are that embedded systems are low in cost, small in size. Again, they are highly reliable. Means what? If any embedded system is there, that embedded system, if suppose you are pressing the power on button of TV remote control, then when you press the power on or off button, the TV starts immediately. So there is no delays there. If suppose you have pressed the AC button, you are increasing temperature, decreasing temperature, you have set temperature 25 degrees Celsius. So you will think that this temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. If suppose nowadays you are using that oximeter, then if that oxygen saturation of blood level is showing that 97 level, so you think that yes, obviously it is 97 level, 97% level. So that is the embedded systems are the highly reliable system. The operation is fast. Means previous days, if suppose you have to measure the temperature, you have to use that mercury tubes, mercury candles are there. You have to keep it in the mouth. Then you have to wait for 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. If that temperature mercury liquid stables, then you say that your temperature is 97 Fahrenheit, 100 Fahrenheit. But nowadays, just the gun is pointed towards your head or suppose chip, then it is said that your temperature is like this. Means calculation is very fast. Then again, easy for mass production. Obviously, one circuit is designed once, that circuit is if suppose working correctly, then n number of products are manufactured within 1 day. Within 1 day, we are seeing. Less interconnection is there, then optimizes the system resources. Whatever resources are available with the system, that resources are optimized, improves the product quality. Means whatever means suppose first device is there and suppose thousand number of devices there, both devices are working same way, so it improves the quality of the production. Then there are some disadvantages that if suppose system is having some what is a problem, then it is hard to detect that problem. Means the maintenance is hard actually. Then suppose you have manufactured one embedded system, then that embedded system has no future scope. Means you are designed oximeter. So that oximeter is designed, it is placed in your finger, which is fitting perfectly to it. So that oximeter which is there, that oximeter has no future technological improvement. Whatever embedded system you have designed, then hard to take the backup of the embedded system. Correct? Means if suppose some data loggers are there, then that data loggers can be there. That data loggers take the log record of embedded system. Correct? And the power supply, again this is the issue, major issue. Like your mobile phone has a 1 day power supply. Whatever battery operated devices are there, that has less power supply as compared to your other devices which are directly connected to the power supply. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of the embedded system. Now we'll see the architecture of your microprocessor. Means which kind of architectures are there. So generally there are four types of architectures are there. Von Neumann architecture, Harvard architecture, RISC architecture, and CISC architecture. So we'll see the first one, that is Harvard architecture. So as you can see that I'm sharing the screen now. So in the screen, you can see the block diagram of Harvard architecture. So it is that main control unit is there, that is your processor. That processor has inbuilt program, correct? According to the program, that processor will work. As you can see in Harvard model, the instruction memory, that is your program memory, is separate there, and data memory is separate there. Okay, one ALU is there and one input output driver is there. So this is the Harvard model. So Harvard model, actually it has, the most important thing is that it is having the separate data memory and program memory. Means whatever loading storing operation is there, both operations can be performed at once. Both the operations are performed at once. Means you are fetching the instruction, and at the same time you are fetching the data also. So if suppose some results are generated, at the same time you can store that result in the data memory, and you can memory, data memory and program memory both are same. Sorry, different. They are both are different. And if you see the second type of memory is there, then that is, sorry, the second type of architecture is there. That is the von Neumann architecture. So as you can see this is nothing but your von Neumann architecture. So this is your von Neumann architecture. So what difference you can see here? See, this is the single memory. This memory consists of program as well as your data. Correct? Getting that? So as you can see that this is the memory unit. Here in one Harvard architecture, the program memory is separate, data memory is separate. Here both memories are in the same way. Okay. Both memories are same. Here in memory, von Neumann architecture. Input devices gives the input, control, that is this is control unit, which is having logic solver unit as well as control unit, and then output is generated. So this is von Neumann architecture. Getting? So what are the major differences between von Neumann architecture and Harvard architecture is that the first most important difference is that in von Neumann architecture, the data memory, program memory are same, and in the Harvard architecture, the data memory and program memory are different. So obviously, the speed of execution will be the faster for Harvard. Correct? Uh, Again, as data memory and program memory are separate in Harvard, so obviously two different lines will be required. Two different lines will be required. Correct? Because because program memory is separate, so obviously one dedicated line will be required to it, and data memory is separate, so one separate dedicated line will be required to it. But here in von Neumann, only single bus will be required for the data memory and program memory. So as here two lines are there in Harvard, so obviously the design complexity is more, and for von Neumann the design complexity will be less because less number of connections are there. Again, in Harvard, the instruction that is program and data memory instructions are different because for loading program, the separate instruction will be there, and for loading data, separate instruction will be there. But in case of von Neumann, the instruction to fetch the program and data will be same because memory is same. That's why the data fetching and program fetching instruction will be same. So this is the comparison between Harvard and von Neumann architecture. So obviously, The most important thing is that Harvard architecture is complicated, but still it is having advantage of, that is, it is faster, as well as it is having separate memory. And von Neumann has the advantage that the complexity is less and the number of instructions to be remembered will be less. Getting? So these are the advantages, disadvantages of Harvard and von Neumann architecture. So this is it. Then we'll see the next thing, that we'll see the RISC architecture. RISC, reduced instruction set computer, RISC architecture. We'll see the next architecture, that is the RISC. The third type of architecture is RISC architecture. Okay, so as you can see here, the RISC, reduced instruction set computer. So this is the hardwired processor architecture which utilizes a small, highly optimized instruction set rather than more specialized set of instruction normally found in other type of architecture. Means the instructions are less in number, means one instruction will be used for, suppose, say, catching the data memory. So the same instruction will be used for catching the program memory. So as you can see here, this is the hardware control unit. The instruction cache is there, data cache is there. So this memory, the main memory, the instruction as well as the data, both is accessed using the same instruction. Means both program memory, data memory is separate. Okay, but what was the disadvantage of hardware architecture? That it was using two separate instructions. Two separate instructions were required for catching the program memory and data memory. But here, same instructions will be there to access the separate data memory. Getting? This is possible because of this data path and this hardware control unit. So this hardware control unit, because of this unit, the single bus will be there, which is used to access both program memory and the instruction the data memory. So this is it. That is your RISC architecture. So it has one cycle instructions are there. Means whatever instructions are there, that instructions are executed in one cycle. So within a one clock, one instruction will be executed. In next clock, second instruction will be executed. In third clock, third instruction will be executed. So all the instructions are one clock cycle instructions are there. So because of it, the speed is fast, but obviously the system complexity will be larger because the more focus is on hardware and less focus is on software, because number of instructions are less. All instructions are one cycle instruction. So we have to suppose you have to change the application, then you have to change the hardware. You cannot change software. So this is the main drawback of RISC architecture. So that's why the CISC architecture is invented. So we'll see the CISC architecture. So this is your CISC architecture. So as you can see, in CISC architecture, this is the main control unit. Okay, instruction and data path is there. Your cache memory, main memory, and micro program control unit. So separate memory is there. Okay, separate memory, program and data memory are separate. The instructions are complex instructions. Okay, so this cache, what will do? It will catch the program as well as the data, and it will send to the control unit through the data and instruction path. So path is same. Here in CISC, the path is different. You can see that here path is also same, memory is different, bus is also same, and the instruction sets are different. The instructions are complex instruction, means that instruction are not executed within one cycle. Generally it require one cycle, two cycle, or three cycle for execution of single instruction. So hence it is called as a complex instruction. Here instructions are complex, means software complexity is more, but hardware complexity is less. Means you can convert the same hardware for different application by changing the instruction. So that's why CISC architecture is highly used in applications. So whatever comparison you can say between the two architecture, that RISC, that is reduced instruction set architecture, few instructions are there. Here the large number of instructions are there. In CISC, large number of instructions. Data types. Data types means it is related to the instructions as well. So obviously in RISC, instructions are less, so obviously data types are less. Here in CISC, the instructions are more, so data types are also more. Addressing types in RISC obviously less. Instructions कमी आहे, so obviously addressing modes पण कमी असणार आहे. तुम्ही MAA मध्ये addressing modes शिकलेले आहेत, बरोबर. तर जेवढे instruction कमी, obviously addressing mode कमी. CISC मध्ये addressing mode जास्त. In RISC, the advantageous thing is that large number of general purpose registers are there. General purpose registers in RISC are large. In CISC, they are small in number. Okay. RISC is generally called as a load store architecture. Means the data is, suppose instruction is